Hey, what's up guys, it's Dlsturbedx, and today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the 3-piece Firecrest bonus and seeing if it's actually any good or not. Before I get into it, I just want to mention that I'm doing a giveaway over on my Twitter where I'm giving away a $50 Xbox card, a $50 Steam card, and a $50 PSN card. So if you're interested in that, just follow my Twitter and retweet the tweet that I linked in the description, and you'll be entered in the giveaway. Anyways, starting off, let's take a look at what the 3 pieces of Firecrest actually gives you. For the 2-piece bonus, it gives you an additional 3 incendiary bullets ammo, which to be perfectly honest is quite garbage, but we're not going to be talking about that here. We're here to talk about the 3-piece. The 3-piece bonus gives you an additional 100% reload speed, so on my G36, my reload speed without the 3-piece was at 2.25 seconds, but with 3 pieces of Firecrest on, it cuts that time in half, bringing it down to 1.13 seconds. The reason this is seen as helpful at all is because in theory it can increase your DPS. For example, let's say I do 10 damage per second of shooting and my gun's rate of fire was high enough to where if I would shoot for 3 seconds it empties out my full clip. So my overall damage would be 30 damage, but when calculating your damage per second you also have to take into account your reload time because that is potential time that you could be doing damage. Therefore, it has an impact on your damage per second or DPS. So with this theoretical gun, it has a 3-second reload time. So since my burst damage was 30 and then I have to spend 3 seconds reloading, I can basically cut that number in half and get my overall damage per second, which would be 15 DPS. But if I were to put on 3 pieces of Firecrest, it would cut that reload speed in half, making only 1.5 seconds of reloading instead of 3 seconds. Therefore, I wouldn't be cutting my burst damage in half anymore, I would only be cutting it by 25%, making my overall DPS 22.5 instead of 15. So with that math, my DPS went from 15 to 22.5, which is a 50% increase. So in theory, using 3 pieces of Firecrest can be a 50% DPS increase. Keep in mind though that most guns don't have 3-second reload times. I just use that number because it would be easier to calculate for a demonstration, and the DPS you would gain for using this set does depend on your specific weapon and its specific RPM and its specific reload time. But most weapons do have pretty similar reload times, so broadly speaking, it's about a 30 to 50% DPS increase. But as I said before though, this is all in theory. To actually benefit from this DPS increase, you would have to be shooting at enemies 100% of the time for the reload speed bonus to actually mean anything. If you aren't shooting at people 24/7, then the DPS loss from reloading is much less significant, because if you reload while taking cover and healing, then it's not lost DPS because that's not potential damage that you're losing. You're simply just taking cover to heal yourself or do something else, and we're reloading in the process. If you were to be shooting at enemies 24/7 just to try to take advantage of this set bonus, you would end up dying left and right, because with the level 34s and 35s, no matter what your toughness is, they will drop you almost instantly, and you can see that in the gameplay here. With that being said, the projected DPS increase from using 3 pieces of Firecrest is only theoretical, and in situations where you're fighting NPCs that will drop you almost instantly, you won't be able to be shooting at them constantly to benefit from it, so it ends up being almost a wasted bonus against higher end content. There are certain instances where you can be shooting constantly and the reload speed bonus would give you 40% extra DPS at that moment, but those opportunities are far and few in between. The only sort of content where I can find this set being useful would be in PvP, to be able to constantly apply pressure to people, or against NPCs that are like level 32s and lower that can't instantly one-shot you, but even in those situations you can still run into problems. Level 32s can still deal pretty decent amount of damage regardless of what your toughness is, and there will be times where you can't just sit there spraying at them and expect everything to be just fine. Similarly in PvP, if you're focusing on one guy and then you start getting shot at and sticky bombed or something, you probably need to go hide behind cover, heal up, and while you're doing that, you would probably reload. So in those instances, the bonus is still only theoretical and isn't necessarily going to help you out. But out of all forms of content, I do think this set shines most in PvP because there are a lot of times when you need to apply pressure and reloading could mess you up a bit. Do I think it's the best 3 set in the game to use for a DPS PvP build? I'm not sure right now. I have to do more testing and it'll probably come out with a PvP build a little bit later. But in terms of PvE, I know it's definitely not the best 3 set to use. You'd probably be better off using 3 pieces of Striker's battle gear when doing things that involve NPCs, because 10% enemy armor damage and 25% crit damage is flat out damage that you're benefiting from and isn't really dependent on anything. I know it's probably not the best thing to use only 3 pieces of Striker, but I'm using it as an example to compare it with the 3-piece Firecrest. Overall, 3 pieces of the set proves to be pretty pointless against NPCs for a number of reasons, but in PvP could serve to be very powerful. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like. You can follow me on Twitter so you can ask me any questions you want, and subscribe for videos similar to this one. I'll see you later, guys.